Welcome back to the channel. This is Roberto with Full Curl Precision again. I just did a video update on using Gordon's reloading tool. You can see it right there. So I got the office set up. But this is going back into something I did a couple days ago. I kind of started this thing where I do like these little rants on things that I notice that are not only logical fallacies, but just sheer stupidities. And one of the things I came across, and this is going to be a part two to Shut Up Karen, is these guys who are gatekeepers, regardless of what avenue of the hunting community we're talking about. You know, you got these gatekeepers as far as people will talk about this cartridge, this, and the third, but you kind of see the same thing in the archery community and in the muzzleloading community. I call them they refer to themselves as traditionalists, which is the dumbest thing ever. Because at the time that, things like compounds came out, they weren't traditional at all. Not even remotely close. Before the compound bow was introduced, you were either using a longbow, a recurve, or a crossbow. Yeah, you heard that right, you compound guys. You are the new kids on the block, so shut up. Stop trying to gatekeep other people from using a compound because you're too retarded to understand that you don't own the woods. The fact is, the first thing that was created after the longbow and recurve was the crossbow. Crossbows have been around for hundreds of years. So if there's anything in the hunting world as far as the archery goes that doesn't belong, it's your compound. You can say whatever you want as far as you're being traditional, but it's the same thing as guys I used to see buy thousands and thousands of dollars of high-end golf clubs that still couldn't swing worth a hoot. You go out and you spend money on, a $4,000 or $5,000 bow. Who knows how much, $500 to $1,000 on your sight. All this other stuff, only to still suck? Really? But somehow you're going to have a problem with a guy who's a weekender, as far as he works a 9 to 5 or whatever he is, some blue-collar guy that's working his tail off trying to provide for his family, and all he wants to do is go out there and shoot a doe or two, and you're trying to gatekeep him. First off, no one assigned you as a gatekeeper. So I'm going to ask you, who died and left you the king of the retards? Okay? Because I didn't. No one else did either. But it's all about fair chase. Some people don't care. Some people are out there just simply to relax and put some valuable meat in the freezer. They're not concerned about what you consider fair chase. Okay? Stop being a gatekeeper. It's not yours. Because if you want to go and say, oh, we're a traditionalist and we're trying to do this, then you need to get rid of your equipment and go back to a recurve. Because that's the reality. You don't get to make that kind of distinction. Not when what you're shooting, you can call yourself a traditionalist all you want. Get rid of your rangefinder. Okay? Get rid of your one-pin sight. Get rid of your carbon fiber arrows and your mechanical broadheads. Go back to a cedar shaft or whatever material, whatever sort of willow or whatever material you have to make an arrow, and start, napping your own flint for making your own broadheads. Unless you're doing that, you aren't traditional. And the same thing for you guys who are in the muzzleloading community. Oh, it's not muzzleloader hunting unless it's a cap lock or a flint lock. Right. Because you're trying to relive a time that you wouldn't survive anyway. You dingleberry. I would survive in the 1800s or 1700s. No, you wouldn't. They didn't have diabetes medicine back then. Okay? You wouldn't survive. You like your coffee too much and your GMC pickup. So shut up. All right? The other side of it, too, is if you're going to sit there and you all want to relive the glory days of like Lewis and Clark, Are you out of your mind? You have to be, because here's a fact. If you think for a second that Lewis and Clark traveling through such dangerous terrain, if they could have packed themselves a Remington 700, a Winchester Model 70, or whatever version of whatever rifle you want to pick in a 270 or 30-06, you think they wouldn't have done it? The Hawkins 50 caliber was the quintessential technology peak in firearms at that time, and that's what they took. Okay? The Kentucky long rifles, they were the quintessential peak in firearms technology. They took the quintessential peak of technology at that time. So if you think they wouldn't have taken a 30-06 bolt action, you're delusional. Okay? And here's the thing. I'm not saying you shouldn't go out and have fun with it. I think traditional, what's considered traditional muzzleloader is kind of cool. It's a lot of fun. I think it's unique. I think it's something that more people should do. But you shouldn't have the exclusive rights to it. When I have a unique and individual type season just because you want to relive a glory time. Which is so weird because you guys obviously end up requesting it after the season. Shouldn't it be this is its own thing anyway. Shouldn't it be archery, then muzzleloader, then rifle? But here's the thing. If you want to hunt with that, I think it's kind of cool. I used to do it myself. All I'm saying is, though, for myself, if I choose this for myself, I'm going to keep it to myself. I'm not going to try to gatekeep someone else and legislatively force them to use a muzzleloader that they don't want to buy. Just so they can extend their season by what? A week? It doesn't make sense. The fact is, and here's the thing. At the end of the day, you can talk about trying to relive a glory day, a time period. But the greatest thing is having the responsibility and ethics to know what works well. I'm sorry. The fact is, I have seen too many hang fires with flintlocks. I've seen a handful of hang fires with percussion cap. Okay? And I'm going to tell you what happens. You hear that deer at 50 to 60 yards, or even let's say 100 yards, hears click, and then they hear that ignition. They go to move. There's a delayed hang fire. Boom. You went from having your shot placed into the vitals to now the deer is gut shot because the thing has a hang fire. How is that ethical? That's a problem, and you need to get right with it. Okay? I'm not saying you shouldn't hunt with that, but that should be on you and you alone. If I want to hunt the late muzzleloader season with an inline with a 209 shotgun shell primer, I have as much right to that as you have to using your traditional muzzleloader. So shut up. No one asked you, you curmudgeon. You got these massive doofuses over here trying to tell other people how to hunt. And with what? Again, you're not paying for their tags. You're not living their life for them. And you're not buying their gear. So, shut up, Karen. No one cares what you think. And no one asked you. And if you're going to have a problem with it, then you're definitely a Karen. And to you archery guys, quit trying to gatekeep something that's none of your business. The overall effective range of a crossbow and a compound are the same. It is not that hard to make shots at the 50 to 60 yards. Yeah, but it's different, blah, 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 blah. You know what? I hope a beaver chews the tree down that you're standing in right now and drops it on you. Because you deserve it. All right? Shut up. You don't write the rules. You don't matter. Hunt your way and stay out of it. Leave other people alone. What works in one area doesn't always work in the other area. And this applies to one last group too. You backcountry jackwads that think that just because you have access to these huge swaths of public land, you're better than the guys who hunt in a tree stand or over a corn feeder. Well, hunting's better out here. No, it's not. It's different. I'm going to tell you right now, having grown up on the East Coast and then having been out here, the bear hunting is 10 times better back east. There's way more black bears, and they're way bigger, and they actually taste better too. Okay? It's not the same thing. Just because you happen to have elk out here doesn't mean it's better. I've seen way more whitetails that are way bigger back east in the northeast part, New York State, Pennsylvania, than I have out here. And don't get me wrong, they can get big out here, but they ain't no northeast, there ain't nothing like a northeast whitetail, man. And anybody who knows those areas knows exactly what I'm talking about. This is no joke. I've actually seen guys haul out deer, and we scaled them that were over 320 pounds. Whitetails. They get big in the Northeast. There's just something about that whole corridor around the Great Lakes that produces some absolutely brutishly sized whitetails. I don't know what it is, but it's a very unique climate, and it produces some monster animals. Just because you enjoy hunting a certain style, just because you prefer to do it a certain way, or just because you grew up doing it that way, doesn't mean other people's opportunities are less valuable. Okay? Some of us didn't get the opportunity to roam around on hundreds of thousands of acres of public land. And besides, the thing is, if you actually look at a map properly, doesn't mean that there's not a good access to public land in and around the Northeast or the East Coast in general. It's just not all federal. Okay? There's tons of state land that we hunted up in the mountains. But if you think that I would prefer that, picking that over sitting in a deer stand on an apple orchard and a pear orchard, you're out of your mind. That's some of the best meat ever. And I'm not out there for the trophy or to prove my manhood. That's some insecure garbage right there, man. But don't you want to know what you're made out of? I've killed over 200 deer. And I'm far done from hunting. I have nothing to prove as far as my manhood. Just because you have to prove it to yourself because you're mentally and emotionally insecure, and your mommy didn't tell you that she loves you all that much, doesn't mean that everyone else has to. And not all styles of hunting have to do with a trophy animal way back in trophy country. A lot of times, hunting has to do with also the management side, which I'm more than happy to do. I do tons of the management hunting, myself and my wife. And the local ranchers appreciate it because a lot of other people aren't showing up to help them. So you know what? If I'm going to get access to some prime quality ground where all the beef are raised, yeah, that's the other thing too. The same feed that these deer that I'm shooting are on are the same fields that the prime beef out here are feeding on. So a lot of these deer I'm shooting, they don't taste really, there's no gaminess. Even in the bucks, even in rut, they're not gamey. They taste like lean wild beef. It is phenomenal. They're just as good as the elk. Because I've had elk from guys that have shot them in some gnarly places, and the meat was disgusting. They should have let it there. They should have never shot it. Should have left it for the wolves. So here's the thing. I'm all about being able to hunt and have different experiences, but at the end of the day, I would rather still have a good freezer full of meat and be able to share it with friends and family and enjoy that at a dinner table. That means more than being out there on some chase because I have nothing better to do with my life. I have better things to do with my life. But that said, I also enjoy being able to go out and hunt and to harvest my own quality meat that you can't just go out and buy. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a good time. I'm not saying you shouldn't enjoy what you do. If you have a way of hunting that really is just you love to do it, then do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying quit picking on the other guys just because they can't or don't have the money or whatever the case is. You're not better than somebody else because of your situation. You happen to be fortunate, and you should be appreciative of that. But dogging on other people, trying to gatekeep, man, that's a mental retardation right there. You big doofus. Leave other people alone. Let them hunt their way. And you know what? The fact is, some areas are so thick with their underbrush, the only way to hunt and to harvest and to manage, I'll take the word hunt away. The only way to properly harvest safely and ethically and to manage the animals there is to put out feeders. Okay? Of all the places, Canada is one of the worst when it comes to how they treat hunters. But even there, they understand that baiting bears is not a problem because it allows people to manage the bear populations without having to chase them through the underbrush and get bad shots on them. It is oftentimes more ethical to have an animal step out by a feeder and to have a well-placed shot on the animal calmly feeding than it is, and at closer range, by the way, than it is to chase the thing over mountains and mountains and mountains and mountains and mountains. Now, elk are going to have their own thing. I get that. But the thing is, the vast majority of hunters hunt white-tailed deer. There's a reason why it's the largest portion of game taken in North America. Be considerate, be kind, open your mind up to different varieties and different ways of hunting. You might find out that you enjoy it just as much. The opportunity to sit down and just relax. You know, when I was younger, it was hard to be able to sit in a tree stand because my mind just wants to constantly go, and it still kind of does that. But the older I get, the more I appreciate being able to sit and just calmly enjoy a situation and not have to be having that extra to give my mind a just clear. So open yourselves to new opportunities. Try something different. If you grew up where people pushed on you, you never shoot a doe because, you know, a buck can breed more does, blah, 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 blah. Let me tell you something. Just because it was good for your grandpa doesn't mean it's good for you. And that doesn't mean it was good for the herd. Things have changed. Doe management is an absolute need. It's a necessity. I'm not saying you have to go out there and eradicate everything. But if you're in an area that has doe tags, take a doe. You don't have to take a ton. Just take a doe. And it's fine. Well, she had a fawn with her. Well, if it's not in spots, it'll survive. Okay? That's how deer work. They still herd up in the wintertime. That fawn will survive. And it's not a fawn at that point. It's a yearling. And yes, there's a difference. So again, stop trying to gatekeep others. Learn your own place. Hunt your method. Hunt your style. And shut up, Karen.